Hello, have you ever wondered why people have tough times making decisions? Why they just kind of freeze or they get stuck and or they have to know everything that there is to know before they can move forward. And one of the things is we talk about going from knowing to doing is I think there's so many people who know what to do. They know what they're supposed to do. They even know how to do it, but they get stuck in thinking that they have to know more or they have to do more. The decision or the risk that's taking the decision is stopping them from getting there. And so today, as we're going to school with Dr. B, we are literally going to talk about making decisions. We are going to talk about what it is. There's a couple types. I was reading, I think, listening to something with Jeff Bezos. I think that's how you say his name, guy with Amazon, and he was saying there's two types of decisions, and we're going to talk about those today. And so I just want to, when people get stuck and they can't move forward, what are some things that we're going to do? And today that's going to be our subject. So, welcome to another edition of Going to School with Dr. B. Today, as we're driving and talking about making decisions, I just want to make sure, I want to thank you if you are listening to this and you would like to subscribe. We're going to be doing this every single week. I would love for you to subscribe. I'm just setting a goal right up front that 50% of the people who watch this actually subscribe, because the content is literally something that I think that can help every single person every day. And so when you start thinking about unloading, you start thinking about making decisions, and you start thinking about the amount of decisions that we make in a day. My understanding is we make about 35,000 decisions today. Now, all those decisions aren't that important. We get up and we decide whether we're going to brush our teeth or whether we're not going to brush our teeth. Some of these things are automatic. They're habits that we just do, but there's still decisions that we make, which means if we're making 35,000 a day, that's roughly about 1,458 decisions per hour. Or that means about 24 decisions every single minute. And if we're making that many decisions, some of them are easy to make, some of them are not easy to make, some of them are monumental, some of them are per day, some of them, but the decisions that stop us from moving forward are probably the most important decisions that we ever make in our lives. And we start talking about, the general decisions that we make, not whether I'm going to eat some toast or put some jelly on it or not put some jelly on it, or whether I'm going to turn the hot water on or not turn it on the cold water, whether I'm going to have coffee. We're talking about these life-changing ones. And when we think about life-changing ones, there are two types of decisions that people make. And there's a risk with every single decision, right? So, for instance, on a simple one, if I decide today that I'm going to not brush my teeth, what's the risk? Probably minimum or none if I do it every single day. But if I decide not to brush my teeth for a year, what's the risk of me losing my teeth or my teeth falling out of my mouth or whatever it is? So every decision that we make has a risk, has a tolerance. And so one of the things that we want to talk about is when we talk about risk is the risk of making the wrong decision versus the risk of not making the decision at all. And hopefully, as you're thinking about this and you're thinking about the day and thinking about what you've written down and the routines that you have, and a little bit later, I'll go through some of the strategies for making a decision. But what are those risks? If you're stuck in, and I think this is where people are not able to take action, or not able to go places, or not able to get things done, or not be able to achieve some of their dreams, because they're always worried about making the wrong decision. And so when we talk about decisions, there's literally a couple types of decisions that people can make. There's type 1 decisions where they're irreversible decisions, where you have to take very careful consideration because they're one way in, one way out decisions. However, I would submit to you that type 2 decisions that are being made, and of course I got this, I'm not making this up. I've read it in several places, heard it a whole bunch of times. I'm just now teaching you about the mindset of thinking about when I'm making the decisions. Type 2 decisions are probably 98, 99% of the decisions that you make, because they're all a reversible. So if you think about certainty, like if I make this decision, I have to be certain that it's going to work out. Like, the other day I was buying some grass for my lawn, right? And I was trying to make a decision of whether I was going to go with seed or if I was going to go with sod or I was going to go, with a blend of the two. And not a hard decision, right? But I could spend an hour in the store looking at all the products and and whether am I certain that they're all going to work. Well, I'm certain if I buy sod, it's already green, and if I do, but am I certain that it's going to work in my yard with my soil the way that my soil is? Probably not, right? So I can't have 100% certainty without hindsight. Hindsight is what tells you whether that decision was a great decision or a bad decision. However, hindsight doesn't happen until you've actually made the decision. So you have to have a amount of certainty about an item before you make the decision. If I drink a milkshake, is it going to hurt my stomach? If it's hurt my stomach in the past and I'm on the teeter totter of doing it, how certain do I need to be before I make that decision? And some people want to have absolute certainty, and that is what stifles or hinders that decision from being made. So, for example, you think of the type ones that I was talking about, and I say, okay, so this is a decision that has to have careful consideration because there is no back door. And so I was thinking about, somebody who has diabetes and they have a decision because the doctor said now your foot is getting to the point where the gangrene or the gout or whatever it is going to go up your leg. And so we're going to have to amputate your foot. That is a decision that you can't go back on. That is a type 1 decision that there is no going back. Now I could try, natural medicines. I can try, different types of antibiotics. I can try, is there something else that I could do other than lose my foot? And then you just said, oh, I guess this is the decision I'm going to have to make. I don't want to die because that's what's going to happen if that infection grows all the way up my leg. So my decision is yes, go ahead and take my foot. Now I know that's an extreme example of a type 1 decision, but some people think when they think about type 1 decisions, they think like, I'm going to make a career change. I'm going to go from being a teacher to becoming a loan officer, something that I know about in my life because I was a professor and teacher for 25 years before I went into business. And so I think of that is a life decision, but that is a type 1 or type 2 decision, right? That is a type 2 decision. And when I say type 2 decision, because it can be reversed, right? I can go into business for myself. I can have a whole bunch of stuff that's going on that I'm not very good at it. I find I'm terrible at sales or something like that. What is because it's reversible, right? I can always go back to teaching. I believe I'm teaching now, right? I'm still teaching. So I could go back to being a job where somebody pays me to do it instead of doing it on my own where I'm teaching you guys as an entrepreneur, right? But it's a reversible decision. And some people think, a decision like that, I have to be totally certain before I can make that leap. And I see so many people, and I'm not saying quit your job and do something. I'm saying, I'm not going to go over the strategies of how to do it today. I'm just going about the mindset that you have to think about. Okay, I'm going to go get this license to be able to do this so that I can drive this or do whatever it is I'm going to do. Am I certain it's going to work? Absolutely not. And I would say if you're looking at a scale of 50-50, if you're 51%, or I should do it other way, 1%, is you're 51%, then that's a decision that you can move forward with. Now, there's some strategies in making sure that you are successful at it, but how without freezing your mind on a type 2 decision. So what I would love for you to do right now is I would love for you to write down the top 10 things or 5 or 6, let's do 10 things. Go ahead and take out a piece of paper and write down 10 decisions you have to make today. And I want you to list whether they are type 1 or type 2 decisions. In most of our days, we don't make type 1 decisions. I would say out of the 10 things that I know that I got to get done today, every single one of them is a type 2 decision. That means I shouldn't be spending a whole bunch of time making that decision. I heard a story. I think I was listening to a podcast that was with Mel Robbins and Stephen Bartlett. And so if you ever had the opportunity to watch it, and Stephen Bartlett was telling his story of where there were two, there were a son and a dad, and they both had different risk aversions to what they were doing. And so he was selling them something, and he would go into the dad, that had a business that was running, and he would offer him a thing. And so the dad had that belief of, I make the wrong decision, then it's every decision is the type one, then life, my business is going to fall apart, or I'm not going to be able to do anything. I'm not going to be able to move forward. And so he said he would take so long, incredibly long, to make a decision because the risk of making the wrong decision was so great. So we go in there and propose, hey, this is a strategy you could use. Maybe I think it was in social media that could make your business take off. And so he said he had to go talk to his friends, and he had to go talk to his assistant, and he had to, weigh out the things and put all these things together and, try all these different modes of decision making. And it would take 6 to 9 to maybe a year to be able to make a decision. Then the son had the opposite, which is what I talked to you, versus the risk of not making a decision. And he said he would go into, that office, exact same proposal. Halfway through the meeting, the son is saying, hey, bring somebody in that could now, to tell them about it. Say, we're going to get going on this. And then, he had to redo the whole proposal saying, these are the things we're going to do, and make the decision. He said within the 4 years that he was doing that, the dad's business was a good business, but it kind of stayed stable. It didn't move forward. Where the son's, because he was willing to make those decisions based on, hey, what if it doesn't work? We will find something else, right? Because you got to fail for it. It won't work. It won't work. It won't work. Okay, great. Let's find something else. He said his dad's business kind of stayed the same over the 4 years, and the son's business grew exponentially year after year after year after year. Because the ability to make a decision fast, or to make a decision because of that 51%, was such a huge difference in you making decisions. And when I talked about at the beginning of the show, you find people who the decision is to not make a decision because they're waiting to know everything. And I promise you, whether it's in a book or it's on a video, or whether it's somebody telling you what to do, or whether it's your own intuition, all these things, you're not going to be 100% certain when you go to make a decision. And so when I'm talking about going from knowing to doing, if you already know what to do, make the decision and go with it. Be willing to fail. Be willing to say, hey, I need to step back. Now, this is not going to be easy for a lot of you. This is not a habit you've gotten into. This is how you've ran your life. For some people, have you ever been to those like a fast food place where you like to go to, and then there's the more that's on the menu, the more hard it is for somebody to make a decision? Like I go to In-N-Out Burger, which I like In-N-Out Burger, and they have one in Colorado now, which is kind of cool. But they only have like 4 options. Everything else on the menu that's different is hidden. And I will watch people who will stare at 4 options like their life depends on whether they get two patties or 1 patty, whether they have extra sauce or no sauce, whether I have French fries in a drink. I mean, it's so amazing that we get stuck, we get frozen because we're not willing to make decisions. And I would say in this journey, in the class that we're going through and the things, now I hope you've already written down those 10 things. And on those 10 things, if they're all type 2 decisions, I want you to write down next to that now, how fast do you think you can make some of those decisions today without taking a long time to do it? Right? How fast can you do it? If the hindsight will tell you if they're getting decisions. And we're as good as the quality of decisions we make. The more we do this and the more we do it at a faster pace, the faster we get and the better we get at making decisions, and the better and the faster we get at being successful, and the better and faster we get at being able to serve others, because you're willing to make decisions. I wish I could just jump into your head and start talking to you about decisions. And some of you guys are making some decisions, and so that is good. But I wish sometimes I could just, some of the people that I work with, or some of the people that I manage, or some of the people that, they'll call me and they'll say, Well, I didn't get this done today because I think I needed to learn a little bit more. Like I had when I do our living trust stuff, I have some advisors who go out and they'll call. I have one that is great at making decisions, and then if they're and he's not adverse to just saying, "Hey, I'm going to go talk to people," and whatever they say. What I love about it is he'll be in the middle of an appointment and he'll say, "You know what? That's a great question. I don't know." And he'll get on the phone and he'll call me and I will answer that question for him. I have another person who walks in the same thing, going to, even if it was the same client, and won't go see the client because he wants to read a little bit more. But what if they ask this question? Okay. What if they do? What if they ask a different question? What if, and they begin to do this thing of self doubt? They don't believe that they have the expertise. They believe this thing on overthinking. I wrote a book on overthinking. It's called There Is No Tiger. That is all about in controlling anxiety and overthinking. But they get into this overthinking where they really their mind starts processing all the possible questions that somebody could ask, which means that 99% of the time they're not going to ask any of those questions. And then they don't know, they figure out they got to go learn how to answer every single one of those questions before they can go on the appointment. How much money do you think that person makes? Or how successful do you think that person is as a result of sitting out and waiting to know everything before you can do anything? So if you're one of those people, stop it. Let's make some decisions. Let's get good at making decisions. Now, right now, I'm going to give you some strategies. So hopefully you have your pencil and your paper out. I'm going to give you some strategies on making some of those decisions that you can do. Well, the first thing you can do, so now remember, we're looking at 51% certainty, not 100% certainty, because we're talking about type 2. Type 1, I want you to consider. I didn't talk about that enough. I want you to consider. I want you to think about it. I want you to ask everybody. I want you to pray about it. I want you to do everything possible if it's a revolving door decision. But what I really want you to ask yourself first is tell me why it's a non-revolving door decision. I can't go back no matter what happens. Now, I would love for people to say that about their marriages. I would love people to say that, about some of the things, the way that they treat people. I would love to say that things about the way that they serve people. I can't say that because even those types of things are reversible. But most of your decisions, like the 10 you wrote down earlier, are all reversible. So now we're thinking about that. Now you only have to have 51% certainty to be able to move forward. So I want you, like one of the strategies you can do is you can ask trusted people. You consult with people who have experiences or expertise related to your decision. An example would be to, maybe talk to some mentors and some colleagues and some industry experts when major decisions. So I'm not saying you can't make a decision. You have to make a decision like within seconds, but you can take a day instead of a week. You can take a day or a week instead of 2 months to make that decision. Even if it's like let's say it's a big decision to buy a house, right? This is going to be your forever house. Not most people who buy one house have always buy at least more than one house in their lifetime. I mean, when I say most, I'm saying more than 50%. If they've purchased one house, you probably purchased two in your lifetime. Now, if you're 21 years old and you bought your first house, you will probably buy another house before you. So it's not a reversible. What if I don't like the wall in my house, or like I have a fish tank built into the wall? So that means we had to make a decision whether to cut out the drywall in the wall of our house. Is that reversible? Of course it is. Just get some more drywall, patch it up, and paint it. Well, it'll never look the same. I bet you I could put a whole wall of drywall. I could build a whole new wall if I needed to, right? So that's one of the things you can do. The next thing, trust your intuition. I'm saying this right in the beginning because you know how you feel, you think it's right, and sometimes we don't trust it. We believe what other people say about stuff. Now, what gets scary is when we start believing people that we don't even know, that are on TV, that are giving advice, that are on podcasts, that are, they don't know anything about your situation. And I want you to trust you more than you trust them. The other hard part about that is when you start trusting, people that don't have your best interest at heart. that, like I said, that don't know you, or some of the people who do know you but don't want your best interest at heart. Oh, I don't think that's a good idea if you buy that house. If you buy that house, you might not be able to afford it. Do they know your finances? Have they even seen how much money you make? Or are they jealous that you're not going to be able to get the house? So trust your intuition. Sometimes your gut feeling can provide valuable insights. If all logical analysis points in one direction, but your intuition is strongly suggestion than never, give it some more consideration. But just know that it's reversible. If it is a mistake, you can fix it. The I'm going to go with the status quo. I'm going to do it because everybody does it. If you're getting a franchise, yep, you got to. Yeah, I'm going to buy a franchise. You have to make your McDonald's, your Chick-fil-A, your I don't know what one that's out of your Burger King, your Taco Bell, your cleaning supply company. You're going to have to make it exactly the same because it's a franchise. But going with the status quo sometimes for an entrepreneur is so hard. Yes, so there's success that leaves clues, and there's some ways and some models to do some things that are exactly the same. I try to duplicate a lot of the things that I do. At the same time, when I'm making some of my decisions, you don't know me, right? You don't know my family, you don't know my situation. And so if I just go with sometimes what everybody else has done, that can be, a thought for failure. The next one, or a formula, not a thought, a formula for failure. Evaluate the risk. Assess the potential risk and uncertainties associated with each of your options. If you're starting a business, consider what are those financial risks, market completion and potential challenges. Or not market completion, market competition. I'm sorry. I don't know why I said completion, right? So you think about that, what are my financial risk? What if I lost it all? And the reason I pause there, because stories, you've heard stories, you know people who have lost everything, right? They've lost everything and come back. Because once you know how to do it once, you can get it back. So what are those financial risks? If it's going to make you homeless, then that's a bigger risk, right? Your competition. Who's doing, if I got a cleaning supply business and I'm opening it up in a metro area, and in my 5 mile radius, there's 50 cleaning and supply companies, I better be different, or I need to move to another area. But what's that risk? Right? Simplify your choices. Simplify and automate as many things as you can. Automate it. 2 decisions about, for example, plan your meals or outfit the night before. If you simplify and you automate some of these things, they're not a big decisions. Shouldn't be figuring out what I'm going to wear in the morning if I got an interview that I have to get to in 15 minutes and I don't wake up on time. So you simplify. Use some rule of thumbs, right? Develop a simple rules of thumbs to make quick decisions. Like if this item is under $20, I'm not going to sit there and stare at a whole shelf of stuff. If that's your threshold. For some people, that threshold's $100, $200, $300, whatever that is. So you want to make sure that you're going to do that. Here's one that's a really good one. You can delegate some of your decisions if you're possible, so that they make the decisions for you. If you are a control person, allow other people to make some decisions. Would you please allow somebody else to make some of those decisions if they can, so that you could put your plate on the more important ones that are there. One of the last ones here is, I'll go to 12, but to define your objective. Now I'm getting into the how to a little bit instead of just the strategy. But one of the strategies is know what your objective is. So the strategy is, if I know what the outcome is, will this decision help me to get to that outcome? So clearly understand what it is that you want to have. If deciding on, like your career path, we talked about that earlier, determine what is your goals, what's your job satisfaction, what is it going to take to get there? How much time do you have with your family? Do they have ultimate vacations? That kind of stuff. Those are great decisions to think about based on, what your goal is and exactly how that goal works. The next one is that I would say, consider long-term implications. if I make this, if I decide I'm going to quit what I'm doing now and go back to teaching, what's the long-term implication of that? Does that help my retirement? Does it doesn't help my? Do I need a retirement? Do I need to count on somebody else? If I guess if you're going to propose to somebody, that's a decision you have to make. What are those long term ramifications? Can I live with this person? Can I not live with this person? And then the last one that I would really say there is use maybe some of the decision making models. We have like the Franklin T where you put the pros and you put the cons on one side and you go down, 10 cons and you have 3 pros. 10 cons, 3 pros. Those pros better be really good. But just do it real quick, make the decision. You can do that on a napkin in a restaurant in 5 minutes, talking to somebody who's helping you go over the Franklin T and make a decision before you're done with dinner. Whoa, what? No, I got to go home and I have to look up all my Franklin T items. You already know what they are. Like I said, back to trusting your intuition. Some list advantages and disadvantages in deciding whether you move to a new city or something like that. Is that irreversible? No, it's not irreversible. Right. And I hope that you're understanding in this video, in this time, in this 30 minutes that I'm spending with you, that I'm helping you make a decision quickly and letting you know. I hope you realize that most of your decisions are type 2, which means they're all reversible, which means go for it, make a decision, and move forward. It's things that stop people. I think you can look at some of those other things. You can get into the how to's like a SWOT analysis. No, that's a bigger decision. And I'm not saying that you don't do a SWOT analysis, which means what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses, what are the opportunities, what are the threats, and go through that. But that's a more complex team decision, but you can make that on every decision. I hope you don't make that on a hamburger. What's the strength of this hamburger? Is it got medium rare? What is the weaknesses of it? It's not 100% beef. It's got fat in it. What's the opportunities? It's going to taste really good or it's going to taste really bad. What are the threats? It could have something in it that's going to. I mean, if you're really going through that much and you need to order eat a hamburger, my suggestion is don't eat the hamburger. Just go get something else that you like, that that you can just make a decision on. Have you ever had the problem with like the area I live in is we have so many fast food places. I don't need to go to any of them. And so sometimes I like the decision. I go, which one do I want to go to? What kind of food do I want to eat? Forget it. Let me just go home and cook something because it's going to be so much better for me. All right. So that's, knowing that you need to make a decision, that you don't need to overcome everything at all. That's super important that you realize you don't do. And so on your priority type decision, recognize the decisions that you're going to make your type 2, prioritize and allocate the time and resources, and then be conscious of your decision, and then stand by the decision you make, at least for an amount of time that you need to make it, so that you have an opportunity to then analyze and review. And those are the how-tos that you could do to make sure that you made the decision. So I hope this Going to School with Brian has been helpful. Again, please subscribe. There's going to be some great messages. We're going to go from knowing to doing, so that you can become the person that you need to be, so you can do the thing that you need to do. And that's a decision too, is deciding to do the thing and just not knowing. All right, so just remember that you are, my friend, are God's greatest gift. He loves you if you allow him to. And I can't wait to talk to you on the next one. Have a wonderful, just amazing day today.